It's a whole new system.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Kara's Book Corner. Thank you so much for joining me in this little intimate corner of my room. As you can tell by the color of my shirt, I will be talking about red flags. Not necessarily red flags in people, but red flags in books that if people recommend, I believe they are also a red flag. Again, I'm wearing red because I myself am a red flag and I'm well aware of that. In this video, you'll see just how much of a red flag I am and also what I consider red flags in books to be. I don't know if that actually made sense. Without further ado, we'll get started. Also, to preface this, some of these books I haven't read, it's just that the things that I've heard about them, red flag. If you disagree with me, please let me know down below in the comments. Let me know that you think I'm a red flag. All these books that I'm going to say or mention, I think that if you recommend this book to a person or you say, oh, this is my favorite book, I will say, indeed, you are a red flag. First one is a cheeky little nonfiction called The Defining Decade. I personally read maybe 40-ish pages of that book. Like, I feel like my life is garbage. Like, I'm not doing anything correctly. I feel like my life has gone completely off the rails and I'm not accomplishing anything with my life ever. The book is a nonfiction, basically about how your 20s are the most important decade of your life and you have to make the most of it. This is the only thing I remember about the book. It starts with a quote that's like, you're traveling from Seattle to New York City. Within the first couple hundred of miles when you fly, you can put yourself off the path. If you start a couple degrees below, your trajectory is completely off and you'll end up somewhere in like Massachusetts. And that really stressed me out. I'm not gonna lie to you, because hearing that, you're like, oh, every decision that you make in your 20s matters. Everything that you do matters. I'm like, I don't need that pressure from you. I have enough pressure on myself, so much so that I could consider myself a pressure cooker. I don't know if it was just me, but the way that it was written was kind of condescending, and it was very much like you're not doing anything with your life. And I'm like, girl, you don't think I know that already? Please do not recommend this book to anybody. And then the type of person who I think would recommend this book is someone who's just like, hey, do you also want to feel bad about your life? Read this book because you also will be like me and feel bad. Genuinely, like, I read a good amount of it and I was just like, I know that I'm not going off the rails with my life, but this book is making me feel like I've went off the rails and I'm not gonna ever accomplish anything. I don't have that energy, and if you recommend this book to a person, I'm sorry, that will not be for me. Red flag. The next nonfiction that is also a red flag is Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. This book, I read the whole thing. I think I rated it maybe like a 3. If you like someone yelling at you and telling you that you're not good enough, and if you like someone yelling at you and saying that you can do anything if you just work through it, you will like this book. This author is the person who created the 75 Hard Challenge, and if you don't know what that is, basically just like this challenge for 75 days, mental toughness and trying to improve yourself physically and mentally. I cannot do that. That is not for me. I read this book and I literally was like, I feel like someone's yelling at me the whole time I'm reading this. The reason why I think it's a red flag is like, good for you if you want to become mentally stronger and you want to improve yourself. It's also at the same time, this book, multiple times, this man would be like, oh, I was running a marathon and I physically felt like my body was breaking. But I decided that, you know what? It's all in my mind. If I tell myself mentally that I can do it, I will push through all this physical pain and my body literally falling apart and deteriorating on me because I'm mentally strong. And I'm like, okay, yes, maybe you can push your body to do certain types of things you wouldn't necessarily be able to, but at the same time, you're literally killing yourself, my guy. After he ran the marathon, he was like, oh, I had broken toes, or my toenails were coming off, or like this was happening. And I'm like, and your body yelling at you and saying like, hey, maybe you should stop running, didn't really give you a sign that you should stop running? I don't know. But the person who would recommend this book to another human is like the type of macho man that's like, work through the pain, grind, grind, grind. I basically live at the gym. You know how much I deadlift? I deadlift more than you weigh kind of person. And I am not. I am very much a weenie when it comes to anything difficult. Red flag. Now we're going into fictional books that you recommend. You probably are a red flag. The first is A Year of Rest and Relaxation. As I mentioned in the beginning, I haven't read all of these books, but from what I hear, this book is about this girl in her 20s who really is just going through it in life and basically sits there. She's an anti-hero. You're not supposed to like her. From what I hear, I feel like this book, if you recommend it, you're not good in the head. And as someone who's going to read that and likely recommend it to people, I'm also not good in the head. So take that as you will. The next book is The Last Post. This book, as you might remember from my superlatives video, as a fiction book that's technically considered a romance, this was so bad. If you recommend this to people, I'm sorry, do you like being stalked? Do you? Do you? Genuinely. The main guy And this book literally just stalks the girl and is like, please love me. This book is literally just like a case of pretty privilege where this guy who's pretty stalks another girl who's pretty and only likes her because she's pretty. Don't recommend this. Don't come near me with this book. This book, I actually have bad feelings. If I ever meet a person, they're like, oh my god, my favorite book is The Last Post, I will literally just turn around and walk the other way, and I will be like, I don't trust you as a human being, because if that's your favorite book, you either need to read more or you need to live life a little more. And that's coming from someone who spends most of her day in her room. I don't leave my house. I maybe go on a short little walk, but besides that, I live at home. I'm comfortable here. Speaking of living life, the next book is A Little Life. The reason why I think that if you recommend this book to a person, you're a red flag is because if you recommend this book to a person, you are a red flag. Because there's so much trauma in this book that unless you know the person you're recommending it to, you're gonna hurt someone. You're gonna cause someone actual mental pain. And I know I mentioned this in my anti-TBR book of like books I will never be touching. I will never be touching that book unless it's to throw it across the room. Like genuinely, the amount of things I hear about that book of just like it causing pain, don't recommend it to someone. Thanks. We are on to the last book. If you recommend this book to anybody, you are a walking red flag. It is Cleopatra and Frankenstein. And like I mentioned, I am a red flag. I have recommended this book to multiple people. I get that. The hypocrisy is not lost on me. I love this book. It is a red flag book because someone who recommends this to another person is not mentally well. I'm not mentally well and I accept that. This book has messy characters, someone who's lost and confused in their 20s, someone who's just trying to figure it out in their life, participating in some unbecoming activities, some behavior that is not conducive to creating a well-rounded human being. I love this book because of that. There's like one scene in particular, if you read this book, I think you know exactly what scene I'm talking about, just sticks out in my brain. It actually perturbs me. In 20 years, I will remember nothing else if not that one scene. If you read the book and you don't know what scene I'm talking about, then clearly it's just me that's stuck in my head. But it has to do with the toilet. And that's all I'm gonna say because it will mean nothing to you unless you read the book. Maybe even if you read the book, who knows if it'll mean anything to you. That scene jarred me. I sat there and I was like, oh, that's messed up. And that's the whole book. Like basically it's just like a 20-something living her life just messily trying to figure herself out. And if you're reading that book, red flag, red flag, red flag. I was trying to look to see if there were any other red flag books. There are books that I don't like, but just because I don't like them doesn't mean that it's a red flag. The books I mentioned, even though I liked some of them, red flag. The type of person who would say, this is my favorite book, this is something that I would recommend to people. I feel like on some level, you'll have to relate to that. And if you relate to these books, it's an issue. Thank you so much for watching. I'm so sorry if any of these offended you. If you are a red flag like I am, let me know. If I missed any book that you were like, this is also a red flag book, also let me know. I will see you all in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. But the way that it was, oh my god, that, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't. God, why am I like this? It's been a while since I sat down and filmed a Hare's Book Corner video. Yep, that's the end of the video. Goodbye.